Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're cutting through all the noise in artificial intelligence, really zeroing in on key updates you need to know, and we're being strict about the date. This is everything crucial from November 11, 2025. We're going to look at some, well, incredibly efficient new ways to make these giant large language models, the LLMs, safer. Plus, we'll cover some major infrastructure moves aiming at, believe it or not, a trillion-dollar market, and also how companies are trying to rethink that right on your device.
Yeah, it's a fascinating snapshot today. It really shows AI moving, beyond just the research labs and becoming, well, truly mature in the enterprise. We've got to mix some really deep technical stuff, like figuring out how to patch an algorithm almost live alongside these huge signals about adoption and the hardware needed. It confirms AI is now just core business infrastructure.
Okay, let's dive into that, starting with research, right? Specifically around making things safer and more efficient. The big headline is about a new technique for patching LLMs to boost safety, but without all the massive retraining hassle. This sounds like it's about managing these huge models after they're already out there.
Exactly. It's a huge win for efficiency, for governance, and just speed. I mean, think about it. Historically, if you wanted to improve safety, maybe reduce toxic outputs, fix a bias, filter harmful stuff in a big model, that meant a full, really expensive retraining cycle. We're talking weeks of computer time, potentially millions of dollars. It was a major undertaking.
Right. And what really jumped out at me here was the efficiency number. You said minimal retraining, but how minimal are we talking? If it used to mean restarting the whole factory, what does this change practically?
It completely changes the game, honestly. The researchers showed they could fine-tune these safety policies, these specific rules, by adding a tiny little prefix. And this prefix uses just 0.003% of the original model's parameters.
0.003%. That's tiny.
It's incredibly small. Think of it like updating a critical safety component in a massive operating system, but you never have to reboot the server. It means safety updates can happen fast, they can happen affordably, almost on the fly. It turns governance from this huge capital expense problem into, well, more of an operational one. That's a game changer for anyone running LLMs in production. And this is global research coming out via R5.
That focus on operational cost, yeah, that's key. So if research is tackling safety after deployment, what about the data going in? Keeping that user data safe in the first place, which brings us to Google's announcement today.
Perfect transition, because, arguably the biggest hurdle for getting consumers truly comfortable with AI isn't what it can do, it's trust. Do they trust it with their data? So the headline is, Google unveils private AI compute for user data protection.
Okay, privacy is the goal, I get that. But how are they actually doing it? Doesn't personalized AI need your data, usually sent off to the cloud somewhere, to be useful? How do they square that circle?
Well, the answer seems to be specialized hardware. Google's launched this new service using what they call secure enclaves. Imagine like a tiny, super secure, tamper-proof vault, either right inside their data center or potentially even on your own device. This hardware lets AI features, specifically their Gemini models, process your sensitive data, like, say, your calendar details for suggestions or your voice notes for summaries locally within that protected space.
So the AI runs on the data inside the vault, gets the result, sends the result out, but the raw data itself never actually leaves that secure enclave. It's not exposed to the main cloud.
Precisely. So you can get those really useful personalized features. They mentioned magic cue suggestions, recorder summarization, because the AI is working right next to the data, not pulling your private info back to some central server. This whole push for privacy features, it's becoming a real differentiator, By moving these useful AI tasks out of the standard cloud pipeline and closer to the user, they're trying to tackle that trust issue head on. It makes this tech feel less like just a feature and more like a basic requirement for getting AI truly into the mainstream.
Yeah.
And yeah, the source on that was their official blog, blog.google, based in the US.
Trust and efficiency, definitely critical. But none of this advanced AI, private or not, works without sheer computing power, right? If everything's getting more personalized and running in these secure ways, the demand for the underlying hardware must be skyrocketing. Let's talk infrastructure.
Yeah, that brings us nicely to segment C. The hardware giants are definitely getting serious about the scale needed here.
Right. AMD detailed its AI infrastructure roadmap.
Yeah.
And they're not shy about it explicitly targeting a $1 trillion compute market, that number. Wow. It sounds less like an update and more like they're redesigning everything for AI from the ground up.
It really feels like a fundamental shift. AMD announced their whole strategy. They've got these MI450 Helios systems. These are designed for what they call rack-scale AI performance. So think huge clusters just dedicated to training and running these massive models. And interestingly, they also announced new Venice CPUs, central processing units. Even the general-purpose chips are now being specifically optimized for AI data centers. It shows AI workloads are becoming the primary driver.
Okay. But that $1 trillion figure, is that realistic market sizing, or is that maybe, a bit of investor relations enthusiasm talking? What kind of timeline are we even looking at for that level of hardware turnover?
It's definitely aggressive, no doubt, but it reflects just how fast these models are growing in complexity and also how many companies, like we'll discuss in a bit, are actually adopting custom AI. AMD, putting this out through their investor relations, signals they believe this market's hit an inflection point. The sheer scale suggests they see the whole industry moving to AI-first hardware design, maybe within the next, say, 3 to 5 years, moving beyond general-purpose computing as the default. That $1 trillion, it represents the kind of global investment they think is needed just to keep up.
Okay, so we've got research making things more efficient, hardware, again, this massive investment. Is it actually paying off for businesses? Let's look at a segment D, adoption. And it starts with a pretty big number from a Microsoft and IDC study.
Yeah, the numbers here really confirm we're way past the maybe someday phase for AI in business. The study found that 68%, almost 70% of companies they surveyed globally are already using AI solutions in some form. That figure alone should make any leader who's still waiting, well, it should make them pay attention.
68% is broad adoption. But the study went deeper, didn't it? It talked about frontier firms. What does that mean? Those using it more intensely.
Exactly. They identified these frontier firms as companies that aren't just dabbling. They're deploying custom AI solutions across, I think it was, 7 different functional areas of their business. So it's not just using a standard chatbot. These firms are building their own models for really specific things, forecasting demand precisely, optimizing manufacturing, complex supply chains, targeted marketing, finance. AI is becoming their core operating system.
And the bottom line, what's the financial difference for these frontier firms doing that deep integration?
This is the kicker. They're seeing returns 4x higher 4 times than competitors who are using AI more superficially or maybe just in 1 or 2 areas. It just shows there's massive financial leverage in going deep with custom AI, which, circles back to why companies like AMD are betting that $1 trillion on the hardware needed to power it all. That data came via a Microsoft blog citing the IDC research.
4 times higher returns. That's incredible. But all this widespread adoption, all this complex tech, it relies on things actually working reliably. And even the big names stumble sometimes. We saw a couple of incidents today, November 11th.
We did. It's the flip side of rapid growth, isn't it? The tech is powerful, but sometimes fragile. Anthropic, who make the Claude AI models, they reported some service instability. Their official status page logged 2 distinct incidents today. Both were resolved, but they caused increased errors for people using the main Claude.ai website. It's good they're transparent, but it confirms that even with all the investment, this critical infrastructure can still have hiccups. 2 specific incidents logged and fixed just today.
Yeah, connecting that back, it's a reminder, isn't it? Even as adoption hits nearly 70%, the underlying tech is still finding its footing between pushing boundaries and just delivering stable, reliable service day to day. All right, so wrapping up our deep dive for November 11th, 2025. We've really seen 3 big threads today. There's that push for efficiency with those LLM safety patches, then the huge bets on hardware infrastructure, and this really crucial shift towards privacy, making AI features work securely, even if there are still occasional bumps in the road.
Yeah, and just quickly, for anyone wanting to explore some of the things we mentioned today, a couple of tools or platforms stood out.
Go ahead. First up.
Well, Claude.ai, Anthropic service.
Yeah.
Despite those glitches today, it's obviously a major generative AI tool people are using directly. And its stability or lack thereof is kind of a benchmark for the whole field right now.
Okay, Claude.ai. And the second?
The Google Gemini models. These are what's powering those new private AI compute features we talked about. It shows how these core models are already being deployed for very specific, privacy-focused tasks for both businesses and consumers. Very relevant right now.
Got it. Claude and Gemini. Okay, finally, let's leave you with the 2 numbers of the day that really capture some key takeaways from today's sources.
Okay, number 1, 0.003%. That tiny percentage. The minimum parameters needed to effectively patch a big language model for safety, it just screams efficiency and makes AI safety seem much more manageable.
Makes it accessible, yeah. And number 2, 0.4x. The 4 times higher return that those frontier firms are getting from deeply integrating custom AI across their business, it really highlights the huge potential value, the financial leverage of sophisticated AI adoption.
So, putting it all together, you see this massive push for adoption. Nearly 70% of companies are in. Yet, the really big new money seems to be shifting towards the underlying hardware, that $1 trillion target, and focusing heavily on privacy and trust. It makes you wonder, right? Given the stability issues we saw and the huge rewards for getting it right, does the pace of AI adoption ultimately hinge more on building that user trust and getting the infrastructure rock solid, maybe even more than just the raw smarts of the models themselves? Something to think about.